West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Content can't stop, won't stop. Little quick video, this one. You can almost call it like a daily news update one, but we're going to just delve into it ever so slightly. About 10 days ago, maybe 9 days ago, Cricket West Indies announced that they had passed the next element of the governance reform that they wanted to pass. People remember, if you're a long-standing listener, follower, supporter of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, you'll remember that I did a video about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, answering the question about whether Guyana and Barbados really cared about the future development of cricket in the region, and that they always seemed to, when big issues came up in West Indies cricket, they always seemed to be moving anti, always wanting to follow their own agenda rather than a collective agenda. Well, Kishore about two and a half weeks ago announced through various different media outlets that, listen, we're reconvening this governance meeting again, because, again, those who don't remember, they tried to have this meeting to pass some governance reform. Barbados and Guyana didn't turn up, kicked up a stink about they didn't feel it was the right forum by which to express that they didn't agree with the reforms, and therefore they weren't turning up because they felt it was like a puppy show and whatever, right? And Kishore kind of came out in the media and was like, we're pressing on with this. If Guyana and Barbados don't want to turn up, then they don't want to turn up, but we're pressing on with this. We can't wait for them, which I thought was the right move to do. I felt that was the right move to do. Listen, West Indies cricket, or Cricket West Indies, or formerly known as the WICB, scores so many own goals, and historically has scored so many own goals, that if you wait around for people who are anti-change, you'll never get anything done. And what we all have to agree on, whatever your kind of insularity and nation bias may or may not be, what we can all agree on is doing the same things over and over and over again off the pitch is not going to fix anything in West Indies cricket. We've been failing for 30 years now, right? Arguably, the decline started about 40 years ago, really and truly, when you start to pre it properly, right? So we've been done failing for decades upon decades upon decades. So the notion that we should stop and not implement change because two member boards or two territories are like, we don't believe it's the right thing to do. Well, tough. We got to move. This is where the term "we have to move" is applicable. We have to keep moving, with or without you. Anyways, I think it was about a week and a half ago, Mr. Singh, president of the Guyana Cricket Board, and Mr. Riley, president of the Barbados Board, put out a joint statement basically saying, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially intimating, we still have reservations about how this process has been done, but we're committed to the meeting going ahead. So Barbados and Guyana will be there. Fine, we're going to come to the meeting. Now, fast forward now, we get to the governance meeting. And the thing is, here's the joke of the whole thing. They weren't even discussing loads and loads of stuff. It was one degger thing that they were really looking at, which was around term limits and how long each term can be for a president and so on and so forth. Again, because for people who don't know, effectively, up until this reform was passed, a president in Cricket West Indies can serve for as long as they want. They can essentially turn Cricket West Indies into their own personal fiefdom if they want to, because there's no limits on their terms. It's only if the territories come together and say they want to fight you down, like they did to Dave Cameron in 2019, because Cameron expected to get he expected to get voted back in, and it was only because Jamaica decided to turn on him and say, "Nah, this man is a dunce," that he kind of lost his presidency to Ricky Skerritt. And Kishore from day dot, when he got the job in 2023, had made it clear, I think there should be term limits to a president's role. When he came on the podcast in the summer of 2023, it was about 100 days into his leadership, and he came to London. I think it was the World Test Championship final. He came to London. We interviewed him again. If you've never seen that episode, go look in our archives. We did a live interview with him, not no laptop thing. We actually did it face to face. Really good interview. And he said to us then, 2 years ago, nearly 2 years ago to the day, about 18 months ago, he said there has to be term limits. A president can't just expect that they can just go. There has to be term limits in which you are expected to get your manifesto or your mandate, achieve what you need to achieve, right? Cool. So on the 10th of Feb, West Indies put out a press release saying the following. I'd love to believe that everyone has seen it now and everybody already knows about this. Actually, should I share my screen? Let's do a share the screen thing, rather than me just reading. Let's share this screen. 1 sec. Let's make sure I share the right thing. Here we go. So Cricket West Indies, let me just scroll up, put out a press release. Here it is, people, saying Cricket West Indies passes historic governance reform at special meeting of shareholders in Trinidad. Cricket West Indies is pleased to announce that its 4 member shareholders have officially approved a historic set of governance reforms at a special meeting of members of Cricket West Indies Incorporated on Sunday, the 9th February 2025. This landmark decision represents a significant step in modernizing the organization's governance structure, enhancing accountability, and ensuring the long-term sustainability of West Indies cricket. And then you get a picture of the man them and the women them, who obviously were at the key meeting to pass this. The quorum was there for them to pass these particular the steps that they wanted to pass. It carries on. At the forefront of these reforms is the introduction of a term limit of a maximum of 3 terms of 3 years each for the positions of president and vice president. So, in essence, no president can serve and vice president can serve anything longer than 9 years max. Now, within that, obviously, there are re-election periods, so they could lose at every 3-year interval. Okay, so what Kishore is effectively saying is it's time to put term limits on a president and vice president, maximum 9 years, 3 years per term, maximum of 3 terms. If anyone has a problem with that, by all means, get in the comments below. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying this is what they've agreed. Okay. This critical change ensures fresh leadership opportunities, promotes continuity while also preventing stagnation, and aligns Cricket West Indies governance framework with modern best practices. So again, why has this come about, people? Webby report was done. Again, those of you who are listening to this who may support West Indies but aren't familiar with the politricks of the region, 4 different reports have been commissioned into trying to improve West Indies cricket off the pitch and on the pitch. We've had the we've had the Patterson report, we've had the Lucky report, we've had the Webby report, we've had bare reports saying you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And the consistent thing that every single report into Cricket West Indies has done has noted each and every time governance has to improve. You can't improve nothing in West Indies cricket without better governance. Shallow knew that when he got the presidency. In fact, Skerritt said it. When Skerritt got the presidency, he said, we have to improve the governance. All the reports are telling us we need to improve the governance. We have to try and implement these changes. But again, for those of you who aren't familiar with the workings and politricks of cricket in the region, where you have a bag of old men, and I say man for a reason, where you have a bag of old men who have been in positions of power within cricket, within their territory for donkey's years, getting them to essentially agree to changes that limits their power, limits their control. It's like turkeys voting for Christmas. So successive West Indies presidents who have tried to implement reform have struggled. And you also have to understand that for West Indies presidents, you can have the best will in the world. And I'm not here trying to run interference for Kishore, Shallow, Ricky Skerritt, anyone. You can have the best will in the world and you can say, I want to bring in governance reform. I want to make the changes. But if you're also trying to hold on to your position as president, you know that trying to push through these changes may means that you get your head chopped off at the next presidential election, where people are like, boy, I didn't like how my man was moving. He trying to limit my power. He trying to change up the thing. Fire for that. Bun that. And then you make sure you rally with all your territorial friends and say, let's vote man out of power. Because True say he's trying to take away our patronage and the kind of power that we have within cricket. That's how it works in the Caribbean. Pure politricks. is how it works in the Caribbean when you truly, truly deep it. So kudos to Kishore for even trying to take it on. Anyways, let's carry on with the press release. Additionally, the reforms include the increase of the term of the president and vice president from 2 years to 3 years. This change will take effect from the next presidential and vice presidential election, which is due in March 2025, which of course is next month. As things stand, and Tolkien and I have already said, no one has announced that they're going against Kishore or Basaraf. So you have to assume that those two will be the president and vice president. They'll get re-elected in March in 2020, next month, and have a 3-year stint before we have to discuss anything further about presidential roles and so on and so forth. Kishore Shallow stated he hailed the passage of these reforms as a landmark achievement. Kishore said, "Today marks a defining moment for Cricket West Indies with implementation of long overdue term limits and critical governance reforms. We are taking a bold and uncompromising step," yes, big up the word uncompromising, "towards stronger, more transparent and accountable leadership. For years, governance has been at the heart of regional debate, with stakeholders demanding change. This is not just reform, it is a necessary transformation that will ensure Cricket West Indies is led with integrity, vision and responsibility. These changes lay the foundation for a more dynamic and forward-thinking institution, and one that truly serves the best interests of West Indies cricket. The governance reform process has been a strategic priority for Cricket West Indies, undergoing extensive discussions and consultations over the past few years, including insights from the Webby report." Okay, yeah, and then here Kishore talks about deep appreciation to Don Webby for his report. Full member shareholders who attended, everybody attended. There's a key line in here that I want to find. Here goes. Shallow said, "For decades, I've championed term limits in leadership, ensuring fresh ideas and new energy at the helm. I fought for this principle as president of the St. Vincent and Grenadines and Windward Islands cricket boards, and I stand by it today. While the decision was not unanimous, there is no division in Cricket West Indies." So you have to infer from that at the meeting, certain territorial boards said, we don't agree, but there was maybe it was everyone agreed, but some people came to the meeting, Barbados, Guyana, and said, we are going to vote for this, but we want our disagreement with certain elements noted for the records. Or maybe it was 4 territorial boards said yes, 2 said no, and they went with the majority. It doesn't make it clear, but I thought that was a quite interesting line, that while the decision was not unanimous, and we have to assume, based on all the ruckus that went on from the last meeting, that Barbados and Guyana came to the meeting on an anti-ting. Can I just point out, though, maybe they didn't have to attend, but given Conde and Mr. Singh from Guyana made up the most noise about this whole process, how comes they weren't there? I'd love someone to clear that up for me. Was it that they didn't have to attend, or was that a coward thing? Was that an immature child thing where it's like, we're putting out a press release, we're making it noted that we still don't agree, but we're going to send representatives in our place? Or was it that they were never expected to attend anyway? I would just love to see that cleared up, because that's a childish flex for me. But then, are the Barbados Cricket Association and the Guyana Cricket Board childish organizations? I don't know. We move on. Let's just wrap this with this, though. So these are some of the things that Cricket West Indies on the Shallow have boasted about them having changed in terms of governance reform off the pitch. So we've now had term limits for the president and vice president, extension of the president and vice president's term from 2 to 3 years, more female independent directors to the board, implementation of a strategic governance committee, reduction in the number and size of committees, increased involvement of independent committee members, implementation of more robust recruitment and selection processes to ensure the most qualified candidates fill key positions within the organization. I'm sure people might want to cuss about that given what happened with a recent appointment. Ethical measures, centralize the ethics and disciplinary functions to one independently chaired integrity and dispute resolutions committee. Did they deal with the Alzari Joseph thing? I'd love to know about that. Strengthen financial reporting and disclosure requirements for greater accountability. Yes, it's never come out in full, I think Michael Holding was one of the few people to properly go in on it. But when Dave Cameron left in 2019, there was a financial report carried out, was it by KPI or KPG or something, where I can't remember the name of the company that carried out the financial audit. I think it was under Skerritt. He carried out a financial audit to find out what's going on in Cricket West Indies, and bare nonsense was uncovered under the last regime, which had been Cameron's regime. And I remember Michael Holding talking about it at length on different media channels. Whatever happened to that? Did anybody get held accountable for that? Anyways, that's another conversation. People must think I've forgotten all that. It's another conversation for another day. Anyways, the point is, since Shallow's been in situ with Skerritt before him, they've strengthened the financial reporting. Public release of an annual report. Yep, that comes out. If you want to go find it, it's all online, people. Public release of annual audited financial statements. Yep, cool. And then last two. Sorry, I know some of you like, Mash, why are you reading this? I've already read it before. Maybe some of you haven't, though. Also, improvements in financial oversight and risk management. Establishment of an audit risk and compliance committee to enhance financial oversight. Employment of an audit risk and compliance manager. Restructuring of the CWI finance department. And implementation of recommendation of a business situation assessment. Cool. And then lastly, in terms of gender equality, business class travel for the West Indies senior women's team for all long-haul flights. Single room accommodation for the West Indies senior women's team on all international assignments, aligning with the men's policy. Outrageous that it's taken Kishore to do this. What the hell was going on before? Establishment of the Women's Cricket Transformation Committee to develop strategies for increased female participation and greater investment in the high performance pathway for women's cricket, including the launch of a West Indies Women's Academy program. And of course, that has happened as well. So let me stop sharing that and go back to my thing. So as you can see, that's what's happened in the recent meeting. The major governance change, like I say, has been term limits for the presidents. You can only serve a maximum of 9 years, and each president and vice president gets 3 years per term. Okay. What I do want to know is, Kishore and Asim Basaraf have already served 2. Are they saying that this 3-term thing starts? Kishore, you'll probably watch this. Send me a message, please, and confirm this for me if you can. Are you saying that the new 3-term thing starts in 2025, so you're going to serve possibly 11 years, or are you counting the 2 that you've already served with Basaraf as one of the possible 3 terms? Because that's not been, I haven't seen anywhere where that's been totally made clear. Maybe Kishore went on a radio station and clarified that for someone, but I've not seen anything or read anything or heard anything which clarifies that point for me. So people, get at me in the comments below about what you think about all of this. What do you think about the Guyana Cricket Board? What do you think about the Barbados Cricket Board? Do you think this is a good governance reform off the field in terms of taking West Indies cricket forward? And here's the thing, though, because there's more to be done. The story cannot stop here. And I know Kishore's not intending for the story to stop here, but I've got the next thing that I want Kishore Shallow to tackle in terms of governance reform, and I don't know how he tackles it. And again, those listening, get at me in the comments below if you've got an idea of how Kishore can tackle this, because I've been thinking about this thing for the longest while. The territories, whether Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Leeward Islands, Windward Islands, or Guyana, right? Well, I'm just going to use test match cricket as the metric. Between the 6 of them, they've produced less than 5 top quality, not even top quality, they've produced, okay, let's go with that. Between the 6 of them's territories, they've produced less than 5 top quality test cricketers in the last 25 years. Less than 5. And even, I'm just using 5 as an arbitrary number because straight off the top of my head, I'm like, I think I shouldn't have used the word top quality, but let's just say good. Jason Holder, who you could even argue came through HPC, Kimar Roach, Jaden Seals, Craig Brathwaite, and loads of people get in the comments go, Mash, Craig is not top quality. Listen, I'm plucking, allow me in it. That's 4. Who else? Who else we really call in here? I'm talking about Test cricket, people. Test cricket, right? So that's four. That's four, right? Not. I'm taking the word. I'm taking the word away. I'm taking top quality out of the phrase. Out of the phrase in here. Let's just say all right to good, right? Anyways, the point is less than five. Less than five between 6 territories in 25 years, right? So what I'd like Kishore to do, and what I'd like Cricket West Indies to do, and this would be the next thing I would try to push for if I was president, I'd be looking at each territory and I'd be saying, from now on, we have to agree that there has to be key performance metrics and indicators that every single territory has to reach. And if you don't reach it, your money has to go down. Your money, like, we can't just keep having a system whereby money comes into Cricket West Indies and then they give out the stipend to Leewards, Windwards, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana, and say, there's your money. There's your stipend for your year's activities. Tell us what you're going to do with the money. Oh, you're going to do X, Y, Z. Okay, cool. But you still ain't producing not one good player. So what are you actually doing? Where is the line? And I have this debate all the time with people in different group chats. Where is the line between Cricket West Indies as an independent entity that runs West Indies cricket and hands out the money to the independent territorial boards? Where is the line between the territorial boards doing their job and expecting a stipend, and Cricket West Indies taking over from the territorial board and saying, you lot are shit, so we're going to now take over cricket? Now, remember that each of these territorial boards, and by default, each of these nations are sovereign independent nations. So how do we manage that? How do we manage that process whereby money goes out to these people, they can't produce nothing good because they don't know what they're doing? And before anyone comes back in the comments and says, Mash, you're out of order, what are you saying? Of course they don't know what they're doing, because if they knew what they were doing, we wouldn't be barren for 25 years just begging for one man to average over 30. We wouldn't be barren like this. So clearly territorial boards have no idea what they are doing. So my next stage of governance reform is to drapes up every territorial board and say, what are you actually doing with the money you get? What is your strategic plan to grow the game in your country? What is your strategic plan to improve cricketers? What is your strategic plan to develop cricket within, let's just take Jamaica, within Jamaica? When was the last time the Jamaica cricket team toured anywhere without Cricket West Indies having to get involved? What is your plan? And if you don't have a plan, and if you can't meet key performance metrics and indicators, we're taking the money away. And we'll run it for you, because clearly you don't know what you're doing. Or we'll find the people and they're going to run cricket within your country because you don't know what you're doing. Something's got to change. Something's got to change, because it can't be we're starving for 25 years and people are still in positions of responsibility and the system's just still ticking over. And here's the thing. There are, in every individual territory, there are people who do know what to do, but they ain't the ones with the levers of power. They ain't the ones in the corridors of power within the country. They're having to look at a bag of old man telling us about, oh, back in my day, this is how the cricket used to run. Your day is done. Your day is finished. That's the next challenge. That's the next challenge off the pitch in terms of governance reform. As my good friend Basil Butcher once said to me, I'm sure Basil will watch this. If we have shit at the territorial level, we will have shit at the international level. The next stage of governance reform is to fix everything at the territorial level, with or without them. I'll be Machel St. Patrick here at one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm not here to win friends. I'm not even here to influence people. I'm here to just speak my mind with the facts that I've got available to me. You can follow the Caribbean Cricket Podcast on all social media handles. You done know by now. X, Instagram, Facebook, OnlyFans, Snapchat, TikTok, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, Patreon, Discord, everything. Just put Caribbean Cricket Podcast in and you must find us. Do you want the Caribbean Cricket Podcast beanie? They're available. We ship them everywhere. I got mine. I'm looking fresh. Anyways, you can support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast by going to www.patreon.com/caribcricket. More content coming. I was just messaging my dad earlier on. That Walter Rodney special. It's time to run that one. We got to run that Walter Rodney special. So let me get back to speaking to my dad and see if I can hook that up soon come. Anyways, comments below. You don't know the done know. Like, share, subscribe. See you all very, very soon. Peace.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.